all this NHL pride stuff, Eric, they actually have 3 teams that didn't do it. They do the pride night, but they don't actually do the uniform wearing. And of course, that's not good enough. Like the New York Islanders, the New York Rangers, and the Minnesota Wild didn't do pride warm up jerseys. The Islanders don't do it because they have a policy where they don't wear any like themed jerseys at all. Whereas the Rangers and the Wild, they basically said they were going to do it, and then they saw that people don't really like it a lot, and then or they just want to avoid the controversy, and they didn't do it. Other people are saying that it's because too many players, decided that or claimed that they didn't want to do it, which would be interesting. Either way you slice it, any of this stuff. But like I said, they'll still do a pride night. Like one of them still had, the Pride New York representative come out. Then they had the trans flag waving next to the American flag and the pride flag. So all this stuff, but apparently not wearing the jerseys isn't good enough. And there's this one writer that I saw. His name's Scott Wheeler from The Atlantic, which is, this magazine website that nobody really knows how it survives because it's like $1 a month or something like that. Nobody really knows how this magazine makes money, but that's neither here nor there. And he says, you aren't showing your quote support. You aren't showing you support everyone's individual right to respectfully express their beliefs by removing the jerseys which you told the community you'd wear. I like how he says the community as an option altogether. The Rangers made everyone look bad by catering to what was likely a small minority. So he somehow doesn't see the insane irony in this. He thinks that by not catering to one of the smallest minorities demographics, however you want to slice it, and I've used that term twice now, by not by not catering to a small demographic, you are somehow catering to a small minority. So in the world of sports, the amount of things that people care about, like the amount of points that are scored, concussions, contracts, their favorite team, all this sort of stuff, all the way down the list of number 9,078 is, are we doing enough to represent trans and gay rights before games by wearing sweaters? Because we're already doing the other stuff. He doesn't see the irony in saying that they're catering to what was likely a small minority. No, you do not see that you are catering to a small minority that has nothing to do with the sport. Why? And I said this last week. Why do we need to talk about this? Why does this need to be a thing? And they had to reach out to a minor hockey league player. He's under contract by, I think it was the Nashville Predators, but he hasn't played a game in the league. He's 20. That's the person that spoke out on behalf of like gay players because he's openly gay. So they don't have anyone in the NHL to be like, we really need to do this, you guys. They did have a guy named, I think, forget his first name, but Zucker plays for the Wild. Or plays for the Penguins, excuse me. I keep thinking of Jeff Zucker from CNN, but he plays for the Penguins, and he said, pride is great. I support it all across the league, but I'm not going to say that James Ryan were the goalie who would wear it. I'm not going to give any opinions on his beliefs because it's his belief. So they can't get anyone to, come out and be like, how dare he? Which goes to show you that it's all the media, Eric. It's all the media just, pressing this on and forward and forward. Is like, you may have the trans flag next to the American flag, but if you don't wear those jerseys, you're hate-filled. So I went ahead and I compiled my own little list of things that they should do before hockey games, or else why wouldn't you do them, or else you're a bigot. So one of my points was to, I'm just pulling it up here, have a child night. Everybody loves children. Players got to wear child-sized jerseys before the games. If you don't wear it, you hate children. Animal rights night was my next one. No exploitative mascots. That's no bulls, no sharks even. You're exploiting, furries. You're exploiting animals, and you can't eat meat on game day. That's my second one. And the third one, of course, Eric, is climate change night. No flooding the ice, lowering the lights to as dim as they can possibly go. No snack vendors, because you don't actually need food and drink while you're at the game, because unless you hate the planet, you will do these things. You will do exactly as we tell you, Eric, unless you hate these things, because if you don't participate, then you're somehow making a statement to the contrary. Am I making any sense to you?
Yeah, well, that's obviously their entire. This is how pervasive this entire thing has gotten, right? So they could have just left it at their little community spaces and even colleges where they can like get their get their claws into people and change their beliefs and mold them into something, but they are now stepping out into a sport that is, fairly notoriously like masculine, a lot of fighting. It's hockey, bro, but they just can't leave it alone. So if the it's a bear with me here, it's kind of like marriage, right? Like, so they or religion, right? They always pretend like, well, don't force your beliefs down my throat, but then they're going to do that exact same thing and pretend that it's completely different because, as we know, it's different when they do it, and it's just never enough, bro. If you do not capitulate to every single one of their whims, and I say this all the time, you can parrot 99 out of 100 of their talking points, but if you miss one, you will immediately be shunned as a bigot and all the isms, whatever. It's super predictable. And it's just crazy that their goal now is to get something that is, kind of traditionally masculine, right? This wouldn't be a big
Hmm.
deal if it were just a Hollywood award show or the Met Gala or whatever. It wouldn't matter because they're expected to do that. But they're trying to get out of their zone and take yours over, right? So like to bring it back full circle with marriage, right? Okay, marriage used to be between a man and a woman, but now they want you to change that to accept them. So they pretend, like with religion, they pretend, well, we're not even religious. We don't like this stuff. But they want to take yours and make you accept them. But they would never do it the opposite way. It's always a one-way street. Last thing here. The same thing with drag queens, right? They're if a fat creepy old man showed up at a library and started reading books to kids, that would not be acceptable. If a smoking hot 25-year-old stripper showed up in a bikini and started stripping for kids and reading books, that would not be acceptable. But it's only acceptable in their one little realm. It's absolutely despicable. And this is going to be, I mean, they're trying to tear the fabric of this country apart. And somebody, some man, some blob, some establishment behind the curtain is benefiting from this. And I don't know, how we fix it.
Well, I want to show you just how sad the sports media is, particularly hockey media. This is a quote on the player who didn't wear the jersey from an NHL executive. His name's Brian Burke. He used to be a general manager. He won one Stanley Cup. The players he had were very good. I don't attribute the victory to him, is what I'm saying. He could never win after that with any other team. But he said, I'm extremely disappointed. I wish players would understand the pride sweaters are about inclusion and welcoming everybody. A player wearing pride colors or tape isn't endorsing a set of values or enlisting in a cause. He
It,
is saying you are welcoming and welcome here, and you are in every single NHL building. They do not somehow see the irony in this, Eric. This is insane. You've got one of the most crotchety old men in the sport who has made a living when he's doing broadcasting over being like a hard ass. He's basically the Red Foreman, to throw it back, of NHL commentators, just taking no guff from anybody and placing blame where it usually should be blamed. But on this, he somehow doesn't see how hypocritical is it. It's not endorsing a set of values.
it
It
absolutely is.
100% is.
Yeah,
Of
okay.
course. And he does, and like this is what they all say. That kid that I was referencing, that they reached out, or they didn't reach out to him, he made a statement. He said it's an integral step and that the most important thing right now is diversity and inclusion in a professional sports league. That's the most important thing. I'm pretty sure it's scoring goals for forwards, defending your zone for defensemen, and stopping the puck for goalies. Those are the most important things. Overall winning. The
Whoa.
diversity thing is just making the NHL crash and burn so quickly. And I saw a comment on one of our videos recently, and I don't usually address the comments because we're always right. Um, but one of them said the reason why this is needed is because you people spend all this time talking about why it's not needed, and it's like, no, this is not. This is nobody's saying that they're not welcome. Nobody's saying anything. It was about when we said how there's these signs on these stores about these people are welcome and nobody thinks that they're not welcome. This is a you problem, bro, who or girl, whoever it is that commented on it. This is a you problem. This is you thinking that because there isn't a sign that adheres specifically to you, that people have a problem with you. This is a complete, self inflicted wound, a what's the looking for, a self-esteem problem. Like if I go up to a thing and I think there's no white people are not welcome here, or people with bushy eyebrows. I don't know, what are my worst faults,
Yeah,
Eric?
it's well, it's all
I just showed my problems right there.
well, it's all made up. It's obviously all made up. It's a boogeyman. And look, I don't know the first thing about hockey, But I can tell you that the most important thing is not diversity and inclusion.
That's racist.